feeling like just because it's uncomfortable or you're not showcasing this glow up, you're lost. You're just figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
And don't shy away from that. Like, I don't need to know all your business, so you don't have to tell me all of it, but don't shy away from it or feel like you can't be honest with the people you want to be honest about when it's happening. I think that's what how I feel.
And I also think that acknowledge when you're in the middle. And then if you're doing something like the Artist Way journaling while you're in the middle, I think that you'll be able to look back at kind of how you're feeling in this season once you're on the other side of it.
Yep.
And there's so much that you can look back and see, like, you know, being honest with yourself in your journaling and saying, I'm struggling with this, or this feels lonely, or I don't know what the end is going to look like. And you're journaling in real time. Then you get through it, because you will.
Yeah.
You go back and you're able to read how much you've grown. And I think that will make you impressed with yourself at your goal.
Yeah.
Welcome to The Hustle Adjacent. I'm Arianne.
And I'm Kelly.
And you might have things that are going on in your life, things that you're changing, or you know something is going to change, right?
Don't we all?
Yes.
But you don't really know what's next. You can't see what's going to actually happen.
Yeah. And we like to call this the messy middle. So today during our podcast, we're going to talk about like that period of unknown. You know, you're changing and pivoting, but nothing is quite clear yet. You're still parsing it out, figuring it out. And it's a little bit messy. It's the middle.
Yeah, I think it's like because we're in this transition of who we are and what we want to be in all ways, right? We're talking about soft life. We're talking about hustle adjacent, but just in every kind of aspect that this is a really fun kind of way to think about it, talk about it out loud and see kind of if that helps us figure it out as well.
Right. And I think that the thing that we've landed on in our conversations is recognizing that the before and after is not always clean. Sometimes when we watch a transformation on social media, it's like very clear, like even the way we present our interiors, we'll go before picture, after picture. And it feels like it was just so easy to make that jump. But we both know, even in that example of an interior, the middle is very, very messy. And we're often not showing, you know, all of that.
Yeah.
But it is a phase that's required to kind of get to the end.
Yeah, I think it's a general obsession, right, with instant transformation. Just general obsession with instant everything.
Yeah.
But in general, social media doesn't help, because I know if somebody showed me a project they're starting and they don't include the end, why are you wasting my time?
Right.
Why
and
you wasting my time? I got to wait weeks for
months sometimes.
So so I think there's, even though we know that's bad, everybody has that in their head now that these instant transformations are, you know, that's how things happen, and it's not. And so we leave out that messy middle part. We leave out, even just like if we keep in the design world, we leave out when the contractor disappears, or we leave out when installs don't go right. Because we don't think people want to know. We're protecting maybe our image or something like that. And so I think that's just work, right? That's technically should be easy to show. And so you imagine when you're doing it internally on your own, how much it's even harder to do that.
Because you're doing a whole identity shift in some cases, like who you identified as or what you were known as from an internal and an external perspective. All of that is shifting, and it's often that you're not sharing it because it's really not clear to you yet. And you don't know how to talk about it or where you are on the spectrum of that transformation yet either. So I think between social media and our really short attention spans and our need for instant gratification, the way we like to see a transformation reported to us is a very quick before and after. But the reality is, I think the point we want to make during this conversation is that in real life, it is not that fast. It is not that clean. There is a period of uncertainty. Know that we have all either been through it or going through it. And when you feel those moments of maybe thinking you're the only one that you know is having a messy middle, we're here to tell you, no, you're not.
No.
Everybody does.
You know, the other thing I would add to that is I think what we also don't realize is there's a lot. So you have to do the work, right?
Yes.
You have to do the work to make the transition to whatever you're trying to do. But there's also a lot of mental work that we have to do. And I think that gets overlooked a lot.
Yeah.
You know, I think of it in respect to like how I became a designer. So I was at a law firm, got burnt out, And I decided to like take a class at UC Berkeley Extension because they had night classes. So I would go to work, I would walk down the street, I would take this class, I would go home, maybe do the homework, maybe do work from the law firm or whatever, right? And I did that for years, right? Years. And it was more so, it was just fun, whatever. But I remember once or twice, maybe would go have an early dinner before the class, whatever, and I would see a partner walking by and I would like try to hide because I didn't want them to know I was taking these classes, even though I had no intention of changing careers.
Oh.
But I still felt like I was cheating on them in a way. And so I did that for years. And when I finally made the jump, which wasn't a clean jump, which we could talk about later, I still remember having these moments of doubt.
Yeah.
And not that I wanted to do it, but like, oh, am I still important? Am I still smart? Do I want to present myself in a way like this? Like, because, you tell people you're an interior designer, they have ideas like, oh, your husband must be rich, or, oh, blah, 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 right? So there were things like that. And I will tell you, if you met me from 2012 to 2016, when I feel like I finally figured it out, I would lead when I was a designer, but you would know within, let's say 10 minutes, I'm going to give myself grace, that I went to Stanford Law School. Like, you would know all these details that I felt were important.
Right.
So you wouldn't think that I was just some dimwit that only wanted to do design work. Right.
Yep. Oh,
and it took me a long time to like work through that.
Yeah.
And be like, what the like, first of all, why do I care what people think? Second of all, like, I know I'm smart or whatever, either way, even in what I'm doing now. But it was a struggle. It was a whole mental struggle.
I believe that. So how long did you work at the law firm before you started taking classes?
So...
Or how long were you a lawyer, I guess, because you might have been at different firms, but...
I graduated from law school in 2005.
Okay.
So I didn't leave until 2011.
Yeah.
So 6 years. So not super long, but I would, with the law firm, you work your butt off.
Right. You probably felt like that was 20
deeply
years.
Ingrained. So I probably started classes in like 2010.
Okay.
But I was taking classes, going to work, taking classes. And so I took one class and it was just fun. And then I took two classes and I was like, oh, I should just finish the certificate. And I started doing all this stuff. I would be pulling all-nighters to do my homework, not the work I was getting paid a lot to do. And like, it became a thing at the firm, and like it's clear I wasn't trying to be partner anymore. Like, but at the time it was okay because I was still a lawyer. Yeah, and I still wasn't trying to leave that, so I didn't have this identity crisis. I was just doing something I love. Yeah, in addition to being a lawyer. Yeah, yeah. And to be completely honest, I told my husband probably 2006, so like the year I finished, like right after I finished, I was like, you know what I want to be? I finally know. And I just started the law firm. And he was like, what? And I was like, I want to be a person that says, I used to be a lawyer. Oh. Like, first of all, that's not a job. But I knew, like, I knew that I never wanted to do it all the time. So, but it's still, even though I said that, in my mind, I don't think I was ready for the way that people treat you differently, the way I perceive myself even. There's a lot of internal stuff. A lot of it. This is not other people saying, oh, you must be done. Like, that's right. It was all internal. That's right. It's really fascinating. Like, as I'm in this middle now to like figuring out not as much of a transition, but it's still interesting to see the difference. Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think, your story reminds me that, one, there are a lot of things that people don't know about our transition, right? We talk like a high level, like they know. Yeah. But we do have that first jump, which was the leap into design. And then now we're kind of like looking at maybe a separate jump. That's not like huge, but it's pivotal in how we do what we do. For me, the jump from being in PR and marketing was totally accidental because I thought that's what I was going to do. I thought I was going to, be in corporate America for my life and do that. I did not have a passion for it. Like, I even in that time knew that I didn't have a passion for it, but I felt like it was my responsibility to be, in a respectable profession, making a decent level of money, and have this like trajectory that I was trying to aim for. Like, so. Yeah, I think that's fair. Like, I was a lawyer because I was poor and I didn't want to be. Right. Me too, girl. Me too. Like, I just wanted education was my way out. Yes. Right? Yes. And so that's perfectly normal. Right. So then you pick a lane, and if you're kind of built like us, you pick a lane and you're like, okay, what's going to be my targets? What are my milestones? What am I working upward towards in that lane that I've chosen? It doesn't mean I have a passion for it, but I'm going to be doggone successful at it. And so I think that's what I thought was going to happen. And I, we moved to a different city. I had time
off. I was pregnant with my second child, and I was like, okay, well then I'm going to not leap right back into work. I'm going to, see what this motherhood thing, because it was still very new, I had a baby and another baby coming. And that space gave me the room to just do and study what I was interested in. And so that's when I started looking at and studying design. I fell in love with like going to different stores and like reading coffee table books and like, oh, well, maybe I should take an online class. And there's a correspondence class like that, I could do a 24-week program and learn drafting and all that. So I just kind of like got really interested in it, hyper fixated on it, maybe a little bit of ADHD. But I loved every minute of it. And I didn't feel like it was work necessarily to learn about that thing. And so then playing in that world and having other people let me explore, I think it's just, I kind of accidentally, before I knew it, I looked up and I was doing it. But to your point, I never really thought about it that way. But as I hear you talk about it, I never introduced myself as someone who is a decorator or designer. I was like, I'm, a marketing person, PR, I'm on a little break. And in the meantime, I'm doing this thing. Yeah. And I don't know if I consciously was aware of how I wanted to make sure people knew that I had a very serious side of me.
Yeah.
But I do think it was a long time before I felt like I could own the moniker of being a decorator or designer. Partly because I wanted to be presented as someone who brought value, but also because I was so respectful of the industry that unfortunately some of the voices that I really respected were very negative about people who didn't have a traditional route to design.
Yeah.
And I took that really, really hard because I was like, the last thing I want to do is disrespect an industry or make it, I already have this idea of what decorators or designers look like on the big scheme of things. And I don't think that's fair now that I do it because we work really hard. But I certainly don't want to do anything to diminish it. Mm-hmm. And that was hard. That part of being in that messy middle between confidently owning a title and like learning about it, that's a real hard, messy middle. Really hard. Because you really often don't know who to reach out to, who to talk to, who to connect with. You're kind of by yourself.
Yeah.
Fast forward, we have both found our way. We're successful. We are in this industry. We're learning how to do it, but now we're also plugged in. Right. And we have friends and peers that we can lean on to help us grow. And then we get to this phase where we're like, okay, so what's next?
Yeah.
Where do we go?
Yeah. And I think in fairness to you, like the reason I figured out that I was doing that. So I also went from a bustling big office, corporate American office to almost primarily being by myself. I had done a few internships when we moved to LA and I was actually struggling with the lack of intellect around me, right? Yes. In a way that I just wasn't having conversations with people. And so, and the only kind of interaction, because we were new in LA, was with my husband's like coworkers, right? So there was a little bit of that happening. Yeah. But at some point, even I started doing a little legal work on the side as I was still like trying to get new clients. Mm-hmm. And when we moved back to Oakland, I just said, one, I wasn't enjoying the legal work. It was just like, one, I had we'll get into this later, but had saved so much money, blah, blah, blah. I needed to start making some money. But it was also the idea that I needed to make a choice. Like, I can't be going into this courtroom telling this person that I care about this deposition or whatever, and then going to the design center and picking wallpaper. It was screwing with my mind too much. And so, as you know, as our grandmother would say, like, I decided I need to shit or get off the pot.
That's right?
I needed to go in and say, I'm a designer, and believe it. Mm-hmm. Let me go start doing some advertising. And that was what I started doing when we moved to Oakland. And I haven't looked back. I gave up. I didn't give up my law license, whatever it is you like.
You just it expires or something?
No, it's like, I don't even know what it's
dormant.
Called. Yeah, it's dormant. So I pay a fee every year. Okay. But if I wanted to come back, I would just take, some CLEs or continuing education stuff. So I still have all that just in case.
Just in case. Because you never know. You might wake up and have passion for it.
I have not looked back since then.
Yeah. Because you found your
and so I think that's why I was able to think about me doing this. And I'm not going to pretend like it's great now and I never do it. But there was something that I just like, this seems weird. Like, why am I not fully embracing this?
Right. I can imagine people listening because, we hope that our podcast is much broader than just designers. We love you guys because we know you know. But I think there's a little bit of something for everyone who might be a budding entrepreneur or, someone who's a creative or someone who works in a service-based industry or somebody who has a product they've dreamed of doing, somebody who just has a dream and they want to figure out how to get to the next level. I think those people will feel very at home at our podcast. And so I can imagine if they're listening to us, and seeing us from the lens of where we are right now, they probably think we've always had it together. And we're here to say, no, we have not. But
I thought I did.
Well, but, even now we're in a new season of this messy middle, because what we're trying to figure out is we've figured out the design firm thing. And now we're trying to figure out what's the next level that gives us the space and capacity to be a little bit more selective in what we do, where we spend our time, how we take care of ourselves. And the difference between where we are now in this messy middle and the first iteration for us is the introduction of social media and feeling like you have to share with other people that middle. We were doing our middle without having to, to really necessarily report.
Or it's the beginning of social media, so everybody knew it was just a highlight reel. Now people don't know that.
Now people don't know, right? And so even, that struggle for us, but for someone who, let's say, might be working in a field and they're like, I've always wanted to be a designer. And they're listening to us and they're like, I'm going to make the leap. We're telling you there's going to be a messy middle. There might be somebody who's like, I've always wanted to be a professional photographer and I've been doing my hustle on the weekends, but I really want to make this thing my only gig. How do I do that? They're going to hear that. For us, we're telling you there's a messy middle. But how do you position that middle, understanding that it is absolutely a phase that everybody goes through and that we do love a good glow up, but sometimes the process is what's missing from the story.
Yeah. And to be completely honest, there are multiple messy middles, right?
Yeah.
So I think of my messy middle that I'm kind of currently in is just a long messy middle that, in 2021, 2022, I had 8 people working for me. We would show up at High Point deep.
I remember.
Deep, right?
Jealous.
Or I had a brand and marketing manager. We had all these things because, we all were a little flush.
Yeah.
We were a little flush.
Yeah.
And the best part about that, when we talk about the difference in how you feel about emotion, I was elated to have that, right? I felt confident in the people I had been working with for a while and had been promoting. I felt confident in most of the designers I had at the time. It was just because what it was, I wanted to step back. Yeah. I wanted to be the creative director. And so I embraced that wholly. And I don't know, clients were okay with it in ways. Versus, when I'm talking about me leaving the law firm and becoming a designer, I grieved a little bit who I was, right? Oh. At no point when I was the true creative director of the firm did I ever grieve having to do a presentation.
Right.
At no point.
Right.
Right. And that's the difference. But I grieved being a lawyer for a while, or I had fear of what that meant to be whatever. So it's really interesting that every messy middle is not bad. So now that I am moving away from that and don't want a large firm anymore, but also still really do want to move to that creative director position with still a little design elements, if I had to think about how I feel now, I would say I'm excited. Yeah. Because one, I think that we are in an age where I can do a lot of what I was doing with a smaller team, a much smaller team or a virtual team, and maybe get back to that level. But I'm also fearful, right? In the sense of being understaffed this year. It's been exhausting. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if I'm ever going to get back to that, right? So I think these messy middles happen a lot throughout life, and more depending on who you are, right? Yeah. I could go through all the messy middles. When I left law school, I had no intention to go. When I left college, I had no intention of going to law school. Mm-hmm. But then living in New York, whatever. Yeah. So I think there are a lot of things that happen that we leave out of the overall story. Right. Or think that, I did one messy middle, now I'm going to be good. No, it's life. Right. And it's really important to acknowledge that. And it's kind of crazy thinking that I don't think I've ever talked about most of this, in a way. And, like I said, I have no filter and usually no ability to keep shit to myself. So this is fascinating.
It is. That's why we have a podcast, though, because we got to have something interesting to talk about. But
we got new things we have to talk about.
Well, I think that when I look back at the things that I thought were so messy, from where I'm sitting now, even though I'm trying to evolve with clarity to another level, where I am now is where someone else is aspiring to be. And so me sharing with them how it felt to be in that messy middle, or what I was going through, or the things you're sharing today about, that perspective, I find that when I do show up, let's say on social media, or really, really where I get the most feedback is when I speak, when I do a talk or I'm on panels, because I'm so open about how it was not a linear path.
Yeah.
And because I talk openly about how I've made mistakes and I've learned from them, or it wasn't perfect, or I didn't know this and I had to learn that, people will often come up to me and say, I loved your energy.
Yeah.
I loved that I could hear, like it felt like you were talking to me. And I could so relate to what you're saying, because sometimes you'll go to a talk or a panel and you feel like those people have always had to get, like, they're not willing to share the messy middle.
Yeah.
Like they make the jump. They're like, I, started doing XYZ and, then I was in XYZ publication. And you're like, okay, but what?
I love that.
How do you do
that?
Oh,
I got to design a hotel. They don't say that their husband was the builder.
Listen, I'm not mad at you.
No, I'm jealous.
However, I'm jealous. I really am jealous. But I also know that I can't replicate that.
Yeah.
I can't. And so the things that I might have in the middle been embarrassed about have become my superpower when I speak or share or mentor.
Yeah.
It really becomes what allows me to add value to conversations. And it's what I think allows me to help encourage people who aren't there yet that it's going to be okay. You're going to get there. You might not know the next step. You don't know the whole picture, but you got to just keep taking little steps that feel right. Right. And like you might start off on a path where you're going to school. You've always won the math science awards. You're an engineer and then you think that's what you're going to do. And the next thing you blink and now you're in law school. And then you blink and now you're an award-winning interior designer. My friend is really good. You didn't even know that was going to be.
I didn't even know interior design exists.
Right. But you just kept taking the next right step, right step.
I think what you're saying, like, we know the messy middle isn't glamorous and that's why we don't share it. But it's also where the real work happens. And that's kind of what you're saying. Like when you share that real work.
Yes.
Because that's when you're doing it. Like that's when you are sitting in it and figuring it out and deciding what you want to do. Like for me, I was like, when I had the large firm, maybe I stepped back too much.
Yeah.
And then so that's when all this shit hit the fan and people were like, ordering things. Like it was a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so, but maybe I did too much. So now as I look at what the next phase is, trying to get back to a certain level, how do I fix that?
That's right.
And so I'm not going to post that on Instagram, right? But ain't no picture to go with it. So there you go.
Yes.
Maybe I'll post it on Thread.
Yeah, maybe.
And so I can
find the right path.
See the people. But I think that is very true. Like this is where we're doing the work. This is when you're stepping out on faith that even though you don't see the next thing, it's going to be there. And you have to see that process. You can't just see the glow up.
You can't just see the glow up.
Even you specifically, because I think even sometimes we want to be there.
Yes. We want to be there. It's like, you know what it reminds me of? Whenever I have made a change health-wise. So I've decided I'm going to, for myself to feel better in my body and to be a healthier person, I'm going to start walking every day, or I'm going to drink more water. I'm going to try to eat more mindfully, or whatever it is. I'll do that thing, or I'm going to start lifting weights and go and do strength training, whatever it is. I'll go do that. And I remember specifically,
say those things.
I do every now and then. There was this one period of time where I felt, and listen, this is just I feel like another superpower I have. I don't know the big picture, but if I get a little inkling in my mind that I feel like is divine, like God is saying, you need to be preparing yourself for this, I will do it without question.
Okay.
And so I had this period of my life where I really felt like God was saying, you need to be feeling good in your body.
Okay.
You need to really feel like you look good in your clothes and your body, and you need to just be taking care of yourself, and you need to take care of your skin and all of those things. And so I was like, I'm going to go to a gym. I don't like the gym. So I researched and I found a small woman-owned gym where you could have a training session with a trainer, just you and that trainer, a female, and I wouldn't have the insecurities of other people watching. It's just you have the whole studio with that trainer, and she's going to do a plan for you.
Because I love a good aside.
Yes,
I will never understand people who pay to be tortured.
Kelly.
This makes absolutely no sense.
It makes every bit of sense.
Listen,
okay, let me tell you why it makes sense. Because this is going to click it in place for you. To me, it's worth it because I'm never going to work as hard as I do unless someone is there telling me what to do. First of all, I want you to acknowledge that I'm working hard. I want you to tell me how to do it the right way. I want you to be like, good job. I need all of that. And I'm willing to pay
all
you.
Of those things.
I'm willing to pay you because I'm going to get the results because you are pushing me to do it. I have tried doing it by myself at home and I'm like, this is hard. I'm going to take a break and then I never come back. So personal trainer for me is accountability. But you know, I remember there was a period of time where I worked with a personal trainer, and it was important to me to have like a gym that was just women, one-on-one, like no distractions, no worried about other people looking at me. And so I was working with this trainer. She was really great. And she was pushing me and kicking my butt. But after a few weeks, I remember going in for my session, and she was like, "You've had a whoosh." It's like, "Oh, what's a whoosh?" She's like, "Well, it's that point where you've been working for a couple of weeks, you know, you've modified your diet, you drink more water, but really your muscles, you're building muscle, and you are going through that phase where the inflammation is going down, you're, you know, releasing that water retention, and so your body composition is starting to happen, and I can see the changes in your body." And I was like, I don't see, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't see, all I feel is soreness and like that this is hard, that messy middle. But she in that middle for me could see what was happening. And, you know, when I would see people, family, friends who hadn't seen me in a while, they would even be like, "What are you doing? Like, are you working out?" Like, I can see it. I couldn't see the change, but they could. And I think that's the point you were making, is sometimes when we're in the process of a glow up, we don't see it. Others do. And then when we share with them the messy middle we've gone through to get there, it like makes them almost appreciate, or makes us appreciate that glow up even more.
I think that we should trademark the name The Whoosh. And what we should do is market it to the drug companies so that when they make the next pill that I can take to get it,
I
will be happy about it.
Talk about how,
because I ain't going to that gym. I'm not going to pay somebody to torture me.
You always want to get under somebody's knife, take a pill, take a shot.
No, I think what you mean is I believe in modern medicine. And therefore, I will take all the pills and all the shots to get
just a little time in
such a random word. If I want it, I need it. But that's how I live my life.
For your not just for your like the looks, but like just being stronger and like healthier. Working out has all these great health mental. Like there's a lot of benefits to not just taking a pill.
Here's what I'll say. I don't disagree with you.
Okay.
I also just know that there are other ways to get the benefits that are somewhat much more enjoyable.
Well.
And so,
because
when there's a time to go under the knife, I will do it. When there's a time to take a pill, I will do it.
Okay. And I'm going to be there for your post-op to sit there with you as you're recovering, making you laugh.
We can all achieve things in different ways.
It takes all kinds.
And modern medicine is magical.
It takes all kinds. Well, at the end of the day, the messy middle has a purpose. I think that's the point of this episode.
When this pill comes out and we didn't trademark it, that's all I want to say.
Okay, well, how about you dust off your legal status?
Well, as a super random aside, I actually have a trademark for my company.
There we go.
Somebody opened up another company in Boston with the same name.
Oh.
I paid a law firm to send them a
nice little letter.
And they said no.
Oh.
And only because it would have cost me tens of thousands of dollars to litigate it, I had nothing to do. So I don't really know how much I care about a trademark at this point.
You just, people out here doing what they want to do.
Would be $1 million idea.
Right.
So then it might be worth challenging.
Yeah.
At this point, it was like 2016. I was making $30,000 a year. I didn't have.
You're like, no.
I didn't have time to be worried about Georgia Street Design as a name.
Right.
So yeah, but that's just an aside. So people trademark your stuff, but no, it's it's actually one of those things where, as lawyers know, it's very, very expensive to litigate trademarks. So if you got somebody who don't care, then you either have to put up and fight it, or you.
I didn't know this.
It's crazy.
I didn't know this. Okay, well, we'll think about the whoosh. Shall we move on to our whispering report for this episode?
Ooh, whispering report.
And I think what we wanted to talk about, since we had a whole episode dedicated to it last time, we called it the creative freedom to have. Like creative freedom as a life practice.
That was the name of the actual.
But it's a lot of words.
Well, I mean, of the episode. No,
that's just like what kind of we labeled this umbrella. But really, what it boils down to is our update on the artist way. We had a whole episode on the artist way, which is a creative, pursuit.
Yes.
Right. It's like freedom to like have this practice of being creative. So, Kelly.
Yes.
I'm going to ask you before you ask me. Give us an update on your status with the artist way. Or do you want me to go first?
So here's the thing about the artist way. I found it randomly again. I think we talked a lot about this in season 1. But a friend actually gave it to me when I moved to Oakland and I was starting the business first. So just what I was talking about when I decided to do it.
Yeah.
And I look at the note that she gave, and it was very sweet. Like, I hope this helps you kind of situation. And every time I read it, every time I even listen to it, FYI, it's on Spotify, so you can listen to it for free. It really makes me excited about doing it. I learned over the few months I was doing it that it is a lot when you are trying to do everything that she includes, right? And so what I did, like I said, I finished the book in the sense of I did the 13 weeks or whatever it is, but I definitely made changes to the overall thing that by the end of it, I was doing very little other than reading, right? But like I think we talked about in another episode, I started writing. So first I started writing on my iPad and just taking 30 minutes to write every day. And that got tedious. Because I don't have 30 minutes of stuff to talk about. But then other times I would start writing and it would just flow out. And it was like therapy almost. But I started doing that on my walk instead to kind of, multitask. And so I would have these long audios of me just like, oh, what do I want to talk about today? Coco's kind of getting on my nerves. Why do I keep getting dogs? Like, it would just be random stuff like that, right? And I still found a lot of value in it. So I did that for a while. And then at some point, I think when I stopped walking, maybe it got too hot in Atlanta or whatever, I just stopped. Whatever it was, it just became really difficult for me to go back to the writing. And then sometimes I couldn't find time for the artist date. So it just really teetered off. Like it just wasn't on purpose, but you look up one day and you're like, I haven't done anything this week that moved me forward. So I just started again this week.
Good job.
I realized I kind of lost my whole morning routine the last few months. So I just started everything again and I'm excited to get back into it. But I have decided this time I am only going to do a handful of things. I'm not even going to pretend like I'm doing anything else. And I'm only going to give it 30 minutes a day. So that I'm not doing 2 pages. I am only going to give it 30 minutes a day. And on Sunday, I'll spend a little bit more time being more thoughtful. But it's just not realistic at the point I'm in my life to do all the things she's asking for. And the artist, I also feel like the artist date is fun and cute. But it's not I'm in the art every day in a way that I don't know that is necessary. So there are just things I'm going to cut out. And then maybe the next time I do it, I can add on more. But I do love the idea behind it, and I don't want to give it up. But I do have to make it more realistic for how I live.
I think that's fair. And I also think there's something to be said about, the time period that the book was written and kind of like what the expectations were and how much time you had to be analog versus being plugged into digital. I mean, not that we couldn't all use a little bit healthy restraint from how much we're on our phones.
You know how long it takes to write? Was it 2 full pages?
Three
full
pages. And I was writing them on a spiral bound notebook. That's a lot.
We don't write like that anymore. It takes a long time to write a paragraph.
Yes, it does.
It also makes you feel bad about your handwriting.
Oh, girl.
Look at it. So
my handwriting.
You're saying, it was a very different book for a different time. And so I think it needs a 25th anniversary or whatever it needs. But
it needs an update. But there are some parts of it that are timeless. So for me, I think I mentioned in another episode as well, I fell off with the reading portion. But for my update for the whispering report, it's still whispering to me that I need to go back and really at least do myself the service of finishing the book. And just keeping, like you said, a modified version to where I can like pace myself, do it, and get at least the full experience of it. So I've picked it up in the new year, which, feels like that's appropriate. New year, new start. And, I'm just making sure that I keep the readings. I think the first part that I didn't do was read the full book. So at the very least, this time I'm reading the full book.
It's a dense book.
It's a very dense
audio, because I do the audiobook and then I go back and skim the pages for the nuggets.
So I'll do that. I got really lax about when I was doing the morning pages part because, like you said, to wake up first thing in the morning and just sit and write for 3 pages, that's hard when you have other things and other people. But I feel like there's a way I can bring that back. I loved the artist dates.
Really?
That was my favorite part of it because it really stretched me, and there were things I did that I probably never would have been aware of being intentional to do. So I'm definitely bringing that back. But I think the change that I want to make and that we talked about making is maybe inviting the listeners to pick up the book. And if you guys want to do the artist way with us, or let us know your insights, your things that you're doing, I think that would be a fun twist to it, because then it's like a community of people trying to figure out what benefit
I like that.
They have for it. So if you decide that you want to pick up a copy of The Artist's Way and kind of follow along with us, let us know in the DMs or the comments. And I think it would be great to kind of just track along with that.
I like that.
So how are we feeling about the messy middle as we wrap up?
I just think we're just really talking about somewhat honoring the in-between stages, right? And like not feeling like just because it's uncomfortable or you're not showcasing this glow up, you're lost. You're just figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
And don't shy away from that. Like, I don't need to know all your business, so you don't have to tell me all of it, but don't shy away from it or feel like you can't be honest with the people you want to be honest about when it's happening. I think that's what how I feel.
And I also think that acknowledge when you're in the middle. And then if you're doing something like the Artist's Way journaling while you're in the middle, I think that you'll be able to look back at kind of how you're feeling in this season once you're on the other side of it.
Yep.
And there's so much that you can look back and see, like, being honest with yourself in your journaling and saying, I'm struggling with this, or this feels lonely, or I don't know what the end is going to look like. And you're journaling in real time. Then you get through it, because you will.
Yeah.
You go back and you're able to read how much you've grown. And I think that will make you impressed with yourself at your glow up. So
honestly, surround yourself with people who you can have this conversation with, right? Normalize being unfinished. Yeah. Growth is not linear. It's not A to B, Z, right? It's all these things in between. And that'll give you kind of the space and the comfort in that messy middle in a way that you'll actually, figure it out in a reasonable amount of time. Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully. Or, whenever you should.
Right.
Exactly.
I got 3 years in right now.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, like, subscribe, share, do all the things. Send us a DM. Let us know your thoughts. And we hope that we see you on another episode of the Hustle and Jason podcast.
Bye.